I am leading a mission about making work for everyone. How do you get people rallied around what it is a leadership team is trying to do? I have a unofficial PhD in this topic now. I have found something I have deeply fallen in love with and decided, you know what, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to this. Be an expert at building collaboration, not competition. Understand that building and leading an all-star team is one of the most important skill sets that you need to have. So I spent years and years and years, Nikki, doing strategy for companies. I've been responsible for over 50 countries. And at this point, I've probably worked in over 75 industries. So that was my whole gig. I fundamentally believe when it works for everyone, you will get the best and biggest business outcome.
Welcome to the Thought Leader Revolution with Nikki Ballou. Join the revolution. There's never been a better time in history to speak your truth, find your freedom, and make your fortune. Each week, we interview the world's top thought leaders and learn the secrets of how they built a 6 to 7 figure practice. This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.
Welcome to another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. I'm your host, Nikki Ballou, and we have an exciting, amazing, emerging thought leader on our Emerging Thought Leader segment today. She is a dear friend of mine. We first connected 7 years ago through the work of thought leadership. I am speaking of the one, the only, the legendary Linda Martin. Welcome, Linda.
Oh my gosh, Nikki, that is absolutely fantastic. I am thrilled to be here. Thank you for that warm introduction.
You bet. So tell us your backstory. How'd you get to be the great Linda Martin?
Oh my gosh, I'll give you the curated version. Well, so I spent years and years and years, Nikki, doing strategy for companies, and I did it all over the world. So I've I've been responsible for over 50 countries. And at this point, I've probably worked in over 75 industries. So that was my whole gig. And basically what happened was one day I woke up and I was like, you know what? This stuff's good, but it's not really what is going to take a company to an entire new level. Meaning, of course, you have to have the strategy right, but I can tell you that that's about 25% of it. The rest of it is how you get every team in the company rallied around what it is you want to do and excited to come to work and excited to make it happen. So I made a decision, I guess it's 10 years now, that I was going to take a whole left turn in my career and I was going to figure out the other piece of the puzzle. How do you get people in sync and rallied around what it is a leadership team is trying to do? And so I feel like I have a unofficial PhD in this topic now because I've been doing all sorts of work with leadership teams now and designations and reading. I just read this stuff for fun is how much I'm into it. So that's just a bit of my my journey. But I will say this, I have found something I have deeply fallen in love with and decided, you know what, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to this.
That's fantastic. So take me back a little further into your story.
Yeah.
The young girl that was Linda, what were her hopes and dreams and aspirations? What got you into corporate work in the first place?
Well, yeah. So the little Linda was kind of born into a big thriving team because I have a family of 9.
Wow.
And I was the youngest daughter. I have a younger brother. And I remember my first memories are seeing all these people running around in a playpen and just kind of taking it all in. And you know, I came from a very industrious background, really probably more by necessity. So child of the 70s. And believe it or not, both of my parents worked. Now, that was unheard of. Now people complain about having one or two children and two parents working full time. Well, these guys were totally pioneering something. They had 7 children, and my mom and dad they both were in government jobs, but had, respectable jobs, and had 7 kids. And so this was the world that I grew, like I was born into. And so I think I was just fascinated by how do all these people get along, and how does this whole thing work? So I think I was studying people, whether I knew it or not, at a very young age in a playpen,
Sure.
to be honest. Yeah.
Well,
And
makes
so I
complete sense.
learned, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I said that makes complete sense. I mean, being in such a big family, right? You need to understand interpersonal dynamics between the people that you're living with if you're going to thrive.
Absolutely. And I think, now, Nikki, like what a blessing. I always say that I chose that family. I really felt like I chose my family to learn whatever I needed to learn on this path. And I have 4 brothers and I have 2 sisters, and I am so grateful for everything that they are and what they have taught me and what I've learned from them. And of course, my parents. But, when you have a family that large, I think the siblings play an even bigger part in your development, perhaps, than the parents. The parents are kind of framing it up, but you're on this team trying to figure stuff out, and competing for some things, and trying to work things out. So I definitely think that was the start of it. And we grew up on a hobby farm. My dad worked at the University of Guelph, and they came from generations of farmers. In fact, we just celebrated 170 years in Canada, and our family still gets together and celebrates that.
That's amazing.
And I think, at the time, you're like, get me the heck out of here. This is the last thing I want to do is be a country girl. And so that upbringing created a lot of desire for, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I ain't sticking around here. I knew that for sure. So that just created a lot of different ideas. And I thought, you know what? I don't want to get pigeonholed into one area. And so I went to Western for business in London, Western
Oh, cool.
University. Yeah, and I was just like, you know what? I am going to pick something that's not going to pigeon myself into one field. And so that was really kind of the start of things, and started down the marketing vein with different companies, and got into very progressive positions very quickly. It was very fortunate, and that's really what got me into the strategy side. And then, of course, now I'm using that, of course, but now moving into how do you integrate strategy and have people really own it and make it come to life. So that is the little Linda Lou story. That's what the nickname they call me, Nikki. Just so
Linda
you know,
Lou.
Linda Lou.
I have a friend, Linda Robinson's her name. We call her Linda Lou too. That's our nickname for her, Linda Lou. That's
Yeah,
funny. So
you can never get away from it.
no, no, God, I've known her for 22 years. Crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you've had 4 brothers and 2 sisters. There's 7 of you from your family, from the Martin clan. So which which direction did they all take? Did they also go into business? What happened with them?
Oh, you know what? Like we're literally rocking some sort of focus group. We have people that went down very, very different roads. And it is true in the big families that even though you're raised under the same roof and have the same parents, they all picked very, very, very different fields. Like to give you an example, my oldest brother was a diesel mechanic. His whole
Oh
thing
wow.
was, yeah, he mechanical guy, love fixing the big trucks. So he's the guy out on, like, he actually went to the highways for these large trucking companies because they wanted to keep the trucks operating 24 hours a day. So he's doing something totally different than me. And I think that having siblings like that, you're born into that kind of diversity of different thoughts and different careers. And I think that puts you in a really good position to really understand the greatness of others and that we are all different. We're not the same. But that together with all these different preferences and attitudes and strengths, you can create a really dynamic family, a dynamic company, a dynamic country like Canada is, right? Because we can all coexist with all the things that makes us different and makes us great. So yes, no, none of us are doing the same thing at all.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it. I totally get it. Wow. So let's segue from there into you and the work you do right now. So right now you're working in the arena of leadership. So what types of problems do your clients have that you solve for them?
Mm. So number one problem is people problem. So what I deal predominantly at the CEO and presidential level, Nikki, and unequivocally 100% agreement, or 99.999. My biggest problem is people. The process is easier. Why? It's like it's linear. Like I can see it on a piece of paper. The process doesn't change. You start adding people now, and I'm not just talking the internal team, but the customer teams, the supplier teams, all of the customer teams. They create more difficulties for the leader than anything else. So that's their biggest problem. And, having taught MBA at 2 schools, I can tell you that there's not a lot going on in academia about how to deal with people. But as a CEO, that's all you do all day long because a business is just a network of people. And so that is absolutely their biggest problem. And I think what's interesting is getting the people that are closest to you, getting them to work together right. So getting that senior executive team right will make or break your company because we all know it flows downhill, right?
Yeah, it
If
does.
you and I, if we're on a team that's working well, on an executive team, the teams underneath us will work well. How we show up at customers will work well. How we deal with suppliers will work well. How we deal with our clients, any stakeholder for that matter. Once you get, I call it team one. When you get team one right, the rest will flow.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's true. I interviewed someone else today who was talking about people and the power of an organization that really took people issues seriously. And she talked about winning the war on talent, or the war for talent, right? Not the war on talent, the war for talent. Because if you want the best people, you're going to have to make them believe that you give a good gosh darn, right? You can't just be somebody who's, okay, I'm going to get everything I can from you. I'm paying you. Now get out of here. Don't bother me too much. You got to be somebody that they think cares about them, what matters to them, and it's about helping them advance into the world. And I think that's very powerful, Linda. It's very, very powerful. So why is this so important to you?
Oh, good question, Nikki. It's so important to me because I am leading a mission about making work for everyone. Because I fundamentally believe that when it works for everyone, you will get the best and biggest business outcome. And I think we've come from a past where we don't think about the all. We're thinking perhaps about ourselves, perhaps about even our company, but we're not thinking about, hey, wait a minute. If I can deeply care about what's important to my customers, am I going to win better than if I didn't? Well, hell yes, of course you are. What about suppliers? Suppliers have historically been treated horrifically. Well, I can get it cheaper over here. So companies are just not great in making this network of people work for them in a way that will produce a bigger outcome for all. And so that's what I am very, very passionate about, is getting the message out that, we live in a highly interconnected world.
Yep.
So when we're talking about how we are with people, Nikki, how I am as a leader with my own people is very, very important. How I am with my customers is important. And I just don't think that we are connecting the dots on this. I think business has gotten more challenging and more difficult, and I've watched it. People are just struggling to get through the day, get the product out the door. They're not really thinking about, okay, how do we connect as a team? Like, even like what you're saying with your interview this morning, how does a CEO really help people on their executive team, or anyone in the company for that matter? They're still thinking, get the stuff out the door. I got a number to meet, task orientation. And of course, do we need to do that? Yes. But I think now it's not either or. You can do both. You can get stuff out the door, and you can care and connect deeply with any group of people that your company intersects with.
That's true. That's very true. So, Linda, who's your ideal client?
So I work with almost exclusively fast growth companies. Now, why is that? Well, a couple reasons why. Number one, companies that are growing minimum 20% a year, Nikki, they are forced to face this issue right in the eyes. You have to learn how to be great with people quicker than companies that don't grow as fast.
100%.
So there's that piece of it. The second piece, by nature of growing so quickly, I would say that the leaders in these companies are the most open-minded, and they're willing to try and go beyond their comfort zone and experiment with things that perhaps companies that aren't growing as quickly don't need to. They're like, look, we're doing okay. We're getting our +5, +8% growth. But when you start growing year on year, like double-digit growth, it just gets literally that much harder. So that's kind of the sweet spot. And also I would say kind of mid-market growth, just because my expertise is with teams, with leadership teams.
Yep.
So just by nature of that, you need to be a bit bigger for me to properly serve you, right? So if you have, 25 people or up on your team, then, or in your company, then of course, by nature, you're going to have a leadership team. And so that's where I'd say we start with that size company. And, I've had the pleasure of working with, really extraordinary leaders who, they just get it, and they're willing to say, yeah, you know what, the more I can alleviate the biggest problem in business being people, the quicker I can get my vision and my vision out into the world. And so they go on this path with us, and they start figuring out, how do we get our own team to work in a way that is going to help the entire company. So they start with their inner circle, and that starts to bridge out to the other teams that work with them, and then it starts to bridge out to, all teams that they work with. So it's a pretty simple model, I would say, and it's just getting in there, rolling your sleeves up, trying stuff you've never tried before and, watching the business explode.
So, Linda, for you as a thought leader, how do you go about finding or attracting these clients for yourself that meet your stringent criteria?
So, couple things. So, I chair, Nikki, two groups of fast growth leaders. And that is through an organization called Tech Canada, the Executive Network.
Okay, so you're a
And
tech chair.
so I'm, in that field all the time. And so I would say a bulk of my business does come from people who just know me. Referrals obviously are the dream on the sales side is people who know your work and say, you know what, you may want to reach out to Linda. She can probably help you figure out how to have a all-star executive team and start to create that team of teams concept. So I do that. I like you. I run a podcast, and so that helps me get the word out about what this movement is about becoming in sync. I am also authoring a book by the same title, In Sync: How to Get Leadership Teams Right.
Nice. Nice.
So I would say kind of all of those in combination. And I'm a huge believer in LinkedIn because that's where my people are, is LinkedIn. They're professionals. They're looking for business help. So I would say those are the big ways of reaching my target.
So tell me about tech. Are you actually a tech chair? Do you chair two tech groups?
Sorry, Nikki, just the volume cut out there, but I think I'm
Okay.
good now. Sorry.
All right,
Yeah,
great.
go ahead.
What I was saying is, are you a tech chair?
Yes, I am a tech chair of two. So
So
I was hired by Tech to start high growth groups in Toronto. And that happened because of my work with executive leadership teams. So my work with tech is bringing CEOs
I love it.
together as an executive team and leveraging the strengths of the group, just like, my experience back with the family. So this is how this is all
I love it.
interconnected. So I do that with executives that aren't on the same team. And then I do similar work in companies who are like, wow, okay, I want to get my team right inside my company. So those are kind of the two areas that I work on. And of course, I know from tech that getting the leadership team right is a huge topic for most of our members.
That's very powerful, very important. I'd like to chat with you offline. I did not realize you were a tech chair. That's fantastic. I have a new book and a workshop that I'm teaching, and I've been hired by EO to speak at their December kind of annual conference that they're having for Toronto area people. And I've been wanting to get through to tech with this as well. So I'd love to chat with you about that offline. I think that's
Yes,
supercalifragilistic,
absolutely.
fantastic. So tell me
Yeah.
an example, like a success story. You don't need to like mention names. You can protect the innocent and all that, but
Yes.
give me an
Yeah.
example of a success story.
Okay. So a lot of my clients are in Toronto, Nikki, because this work, I firmly believe, requires face-to-face contact.
Yes.
Yes, we do work virtually, especially during the pandemic, but now as much as possible, we want to do it live, or we jump on a plane and go see them.
Yeah.
So I would say, one of my many success stories is a company that is one of Canada's fastest growing companies for over 5 years.
Wow.
And I was hired by their CEO to come in and, help them grow their executive team and take the company to a new level. And so over the period of 6 months, we worked together, and through our work, we came up with a solution to one of their biggest business problems. And one of the problem was capital raising, of all things. So that's what, when we go into a group, we're not just building a team, but we're using deep team collaboration to solve their biggest problem. And the president said, you know what? If we could start raising our own capital, we would catapult any other company in our field. And so what we did was we worked together. They came up with an idea that they wanted to raise $125 million. And they had never done that before. And the executive team got together. So we had a president, we had a CFO, and we had a CEO, and we had a head of HR. And they all put their heads together. And literally 6 months to the day, I get a call from the CEO, and he's like, guess what? It's done. We just closed our first capital raise for $125 million.
Damn.
And, you know, the thing is, Nikki, is that when you get people in sync around what the company is doing, and you start unleashing the desire to do more, be more, have more, but it can't be just one person. You need a team to get that kind of win under your belt. So they went from that. They today have completed their third round of raising their own capital. And, you know, I know you're a smart business guy, so you know the benefit of having your own cash versus going to the market, whether it's the bank or whoever you're going to private equity. They have raised their own capital. That has allowed them to move so much quicker. They've been able to expand, and that's how they've kept on the list of fastest growing companies for the last 5 years. So this is the type of transformational work we do together, putting all of these bright minds in a room and figuring out, how do we collaborate, not compete with each other? And how do we serve the greater good of all these groups in the company? And that's just one of many stories of how we can serve better. I mean, to be like that, Nikki, that astonished me. And I guess, first of all, the amount of the raise and the short duration of time, that when you can rally the energy and efforts of people, I don't think anyone quite realizes what is capable. But when you look back in humanity, this is how we did anything, whether we put a man on the moon, when the pyramids of Egypt were built. They're all built rallying people together. But what the heck were they doing? Like, what was going on with these teams that those kind of achievements happened? And now that's why I've been such an avid in an avid inquiry, being curious, going back to school, studying, figuring all this stuff out, and helping leaders unleash the energy that they have on their executive team to take the company to a level that they never even thought was possible.
That's fantastic. I love it. I love it. So, Linda, I'm going to ask you a bit of an off-the-wall question. You ready?
I'm ready.
So look, you are an emerging thought leader. I know you got a big heart. You got a desire to make a big dent in the universe. So what's the biggest challenge you're currently facing in terms of you being better known out there, in terms of you and your message scaling and helping way more folks?
Well, that is an excellent question. So I think, you grow up from a point of who do you know, and you flip it to who knows you. Yeah. So that's why I've been on this trajectory of, yes, am I well known in Canada and really, really well known in Toronto, yes. But for me to achieve what I want for others, I have to create a much bigger platform where people can see my work and see who I am as a leader as well. And I got to tell you, Nikki, one of the biggest things I had to overcome was I did not want to be the public face of this. I just didn't want to. Not that I don't love being with people. I love being with teams, but I love knowing who's in the room versus being somebody who's just on the internet out there talking to a black hole. And, I have really, really had to work on that part of my personality to realize that this is going to be part of it. And I guess it just speaks to my level of commitment to this, that I'm going to break that paradigm that I've had, and I'm going to be willing to be the public face of it, to, be, go on internet, do podcasts, be an author, be out there speaking around the world about the most important thing to a business, which is around your executive teams.
So I want to chat with you offline because I can help you with that in a couple of ways. I think we can help each other, but I want you to do me a favor. This is my newest book. It is called Get Booked and Get Paid: How to Generate 6 Figures Plus a Year Through Podcast Guesting, Generating New Relationships, New Leads. I have become the world expert on this. I've been on 630 shows in 26 months, and I've generated 25 client engagements and $410,000 in sales 5 hours a week. This is an excellent book for anybody who is like you, looking to get themselves out there. Where it's on Amazon right now. Go grab a copy. It's a fantastic book. I think it'll make a huge difference for you to get a copy of that. And we should find time to see each other in person. I'll sign up for you. So
yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. But
I love that, Nikki, honestly.
There's a couple of people I want to introduce you to who I think you should be on their shows. And I actually, like I said, this talk I'm doing for EO is on podcast guesting. All the EO entrepreneurs want to find out about podcast guesting, because podcast guesting, people go, okay, I just go on a show and that's great. No. That's how most people do it. The way I do it is a blue ocean. You familiar with the book Blue Ocean Strategy? So
of course,
this is a blue ocean. Everybody else, of course you are. Everybody else is in the red ocean of traditional ways of getting themselves out there. Podcast guesting, the Nikki Billou way, is, which we call Get Booked and Get Paid, is a blue ocean. Nobody understands this. So I'm going to give you a couple of thoughts on it. Number one, the intention has to be that you're going there to make relationships with people that are buyers. I'm going on to generate client relationships, leads, sales, clients, not to have a great conversation. That's a good intention, but it's a secondary intention. The main intention is lead, sales, clients. There's a big difference between having that as your primary focus and having a good conversation as your primary focus. You with me? And everybody else does the good conversation, and then magically somehow something's supposed to happen from that. Secondly, this is very important. You need to be on the show to wow the audience. The audience is composed of busy people that are seekers. Many of them are full of stress, and they want to hear from you to be inspired. So their stress disappears and they're like, wow, Linda was great. I want to know more. So you've got to have that as an intention. Secondly, you got to make the host look good. The host has got to go, damn, I'm glad I brought her on. God, she's got to come back. That's what you want the host to say. But Linda, here's the most important part. You need to build a relationship with the host. You need to build a relationship with the host. The host is another fellow business person. That relationship can open doors for you. And this is just old-fashioned. You and I were from, a generation that understands this, that believes in person. You meet new people. What's a great way to meet new people? Well, be on an interview with them. Be on an interview with them. You're going to meet new people. If you do 2 shows a week, 50 weeks a year, That's 100 shows. Lynn, that's 100 new business relationships. Now, I know you and I know each other, but imagine 100 new business relationships. You probably have shared this with some of your clients in the past. 100 new business relationships, if you're smart about it, man, that's worth something. 100 new business relationships is probably worth 5 to 15 new client engagements. 100 new business relationships is worth an opportunity that one of them can open a door for you to get you to speak to a whole new association in another country. 100 new business relationships is an opportunity for you to be of service and for someone to be of service to you. People don't understand that this is the genius of podcast guesting, and that's okay. They listen to my podcast, they start to get it. They come and do my courses or read my books on this. They come and get it. But I'm telling you, this is powerful stuff. People need to know about this, business people, because this is going to be a blue ocean only for a couple more years. Then everyone's going to know about it. It's going to be red as red can be. That's just how it goes. That's just how it goes.
And Nikki, just so I know, you're saying to appear as a guest.
Correct.
Versus having a show.
Yes.
Just so I
having a show
understand.
is wonderful, and I recommend that too. And you have a show, and we can talk about that separately as well. But I'm talking about being a guest. You don't need to commit to a regular schedule to be a guest. You do it whenever you want. You don't need to hire good tech people to produce your show and all that good stuff. To be a guest, all you need to do is have something valuable to say and be willing to go on shows and say it. That's all. That's what makes it so simple, doesn't it? Anybody can go be a guest, but they want to learn how to be a guest and do it the way that they would go do a TED Talk. Because if you go do a talk the way everybody else does it, you're just going to have a conversation. It'll be great. You'll go home. Nothing will happen. But if you do it the way that get booked and get paid lays out for you, your entire appearance is like a TED Talk, and it's going to result in great new relationships, great new sales and leads and clients. And that, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, so that's what I want to say.
Sorry, can you just give me 1 minute? These delivery guys were supposed to be here at 5 and they've just shown up. So I'm just going to give me 1 minute and I'll be right back.
You go for it. And I'll speak while you're gone so we don't have dead air. So that's what we're going to do. Awesome. Okay. So what I'm saying while Linda's away is that podcast guesting is a way for you to generate leads, sales, and clients. How? Well, first of all, you're going on a show and you are going to be speaking to a whole new audience who doesn't know you. This audience is full of people who are going to get to know you. That's beautiful. That's magnificent. So if you go on 100 shows, and let's say each show just had 100 listeners, which is a low number. That's 10,000 new listeners who are going to get to know you. That's 10,000 people who otherwise wouldn't get to know you, who now know you. Now, if each show had 1,000 listeners, that's 100,000 new people that are going to be exposed to you and your work. And on top of that, you're also going to get a bunch of them that are going to go, I need to get to understand this person and their work. And they're going to want to do business with you. She's back. So, Linda.
I'm back. Yes.
A year from now, 3 years from now, where would you have to be so that you are fulfilling your heart's desire in terms of your purpose and your mission, and you're crying tears of joy in terms of the impact you're having out there?
And so where would I need to be from here? Yeah, I would say by next year, because I've got this book coming out, which, as you would know, is because of this style that it's being written in, it's very evidence-based, and because of who I'm writing it for, CEOs and presidents. And I know how to write for them. It's got to be punchy, to the point, backed up. So I've got that on the go. So I want that out by early next year. And the podcast series, because I've just started it. I just started it in June of this year. So these two are going to be the platform. And then I would say 2025 is going to be all about just going out and selling it that much harder on the platform. Because I've had a chance with writing the book, Nikki, to really rub out any of the edges of it. So now it's the same core, but I made a couple of changes to it, to go out and just basically serve more clients. But the one thing I'll never do is I'll never give up my 2 tech groups, because I just love that work. And you know what? I have learned so much doing that. So I'll have my 2 tech groups, and then from there I can probably take on probably two new clients a month, I would say, into Q2 2025.
I love it.
That's the game plan.
I love it. So, Linda, we wrap up every show by asking you, as our guest expert, what are your top 3 expert action steps? Bullet point form, what are your 3 best pieces of advice for my listener? What say you?
Best piece of advice for your listener: understand that building and leading an all-star team is one of the most important skill sets that you need to have. That's number 1. Number 2 is be an expert at building collaboration, not competition. Hire for that. You need collaborative people in the future, and particularly on your own leadership team. And I would say number 3, be a phenomenal connector with your own team, your team of teams internally, your customers, and your suppliers. And if you can do that well, you will be literally, Nikki, in the 1% club, because it is not done well. It is done horrifically. But most importantly, you will 2x your business. And it's not Linda Martin saying that. The data is saying that you will, you'll be 2 times as likely to be above the medium performance if you do this well. So this is something that in the past was looked at as soft skills. These are not soft skills. I would say the soft skills are the process and all that, and the KPIs and the Lean Six Sigma. That stuff's easy. You just follow a recipe. This is the hard stuff. And you need to, in a modern world, get that stuff right. Pivot your thinking into that is what I would say. Those are the top 3.
These are really great. And in reflecting on them as you're sharing them, these are all 3 areas I want to get significantly better at myself. So I thank you for sharing those with us, from me personally, as well as from my listener. So Linda, what do you want to promote to the listener today?
Yes. What do I want to promote? I want to encourage listeners to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Linda Martin Toronto. LinkedIn is the new website. I do have a website as well, Linda at Linda Martin Results. And on your favorite podcast, check me out, In Sync with Linda Martin, on Spotify, on Apple, or any of your favorite podcasts. And, have a listen. Just, start the journey. And I know you'll like it. The folks that we're interviewing are absolutely world-class contributors to this movement of making work. So that's what I would say.
I've got a couple guests for you that I think you would enjoy talking to, but fantastic.
Okay.
Listener, Linda Martin, the real deal. Check out her LinkedIn profile, check out her website. And if you enjoyed the episode, give us a like, give us a rating, give us a review. That helps with the algorithm. And if you have a friend who needed to hear this, share this with them. Sharing an episode is like giving someone a gift, because if they need that message and they need that message, there's nothing better than you sharing it with them. Linda Martin, God bless your heart. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Nikki. Awesome to see you again.
Awesome. soon to see you as well. And that wraps up another exciting episode of the podcast, The Thought Leader Revolution. To find out about today's amazing guest, the legendary Linda Martin, go to the show notes at thethoughtleaderrevolution.com or wherever you happen to listen to this episode, be it iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Audible, YouTube, Rumble, or what have you. Until next time, goodbye.
This episode has been brought to you by eCircleAcademy.com, the proven system to add 6 to 7 figures a year to your thought leader practice.